All right, we are on page 93 in your big math book. We're going over the chapter 2 test review. All right, let's jump right into it. Write the values in order from least to greatest. My recommendation is whenever you're asked to compare numbers that are fractions and decimals, is always get everything into decimal form. Because once it's in decimal form, it's much easier to compare and see which one is least, which one is greatest. So, on number 1, write the values in order from least to greatest. You can see here and here I already have decimals, so I can leave those alone. These two, though, I need to change into decimals. They're fractions, need to change them into decimals. Okay, so in order to do that, I have to divide the denominator into the numerator. So I'm going to start with 3. Think about the right side of the screen as my scratch paper, okay? So I have 4 as the denominator into the numerator. Add a decimal, add a 0 because 4 can't go into 3. But now it's kind of like we're doing 4 into 30. 4 goes into 30 how many times? Let's see, 6, 7 times. Because 7 times 4 is 28. Subtract gives us 2. We can always, whenever we have a remainder and we're changing a fraction into a decimal, we can always add another 0 and bring it down. 4 goes into 25 times. 5 times 4 is 20 exactly. Subtract gives us 0, so we don't need to bring anything else down. So 3/4 is equivalent to 0.75. All right, let's go ahead and change 5/8 now. Again, I divide the denominator into the numerator. 8 can't go into 5, so I add a decimal and a 0. So now it's like doing 8 into 50. Bring my decimal straight up. And now 8 goes into 50 6 times. 6 times 8 is 48. Subtract gives us 2. Add a 0 because I can't be left with a remainder. 8 goes into 20 twice. 2 times 8 is 16. Subtract gives me 4. Add another 0. I can't have a remainder. Nothing's repeating yet, so I keep going. I keep adding zeros. 8 goes into 45 times. 5 times 8 is 40 exactly. Subtracting gives me 0. So 5/8 is equal to 0.625. Okay. So now I can compare these numbers. I have 0.45. I have 0.75, which was our 3/4 right here. I have 0.625, and I have 0.5. Now I can add zeros behind. After I'm to the right of a decimal, I can add as many zeros behind as I want. So I'm going to go ahead and add some zeros just so we line everything up. Now I start with the ones place. I have all zeros, so that doesn't tell me anything. Okay, so I go to the tenths place. 4, 7, 6, and 5. And again, the problem says go from least to greatest. So 4, 7, 6, and 5, the smallest number is 4. So that is my 0.45 will be first. Okay, I'm done with that one. Okay, next I look at these now, 7, 6, 5. Well, 5 is the smallest out of those, so that's going to be my next number, 0.5. So I'm done with that. Then 6 and 7. 6 is smaller, and that was my 5/8. 0.625 was my 5/8. And so I'm done with that. And then my 0.75 was my 3/4. So my biggest number is 3/4. All right, I'm going to erase my scratch work because I'm limited, but I don't want you guys to erase your work. because you guys can always get more scratch paper. So there's no need. All right. For number 2, you basically are doing the same thing we did on number 1. Change both of these, make sure they're both decimals. This one already is a decimal, so you only have to change this one. Again, by dividing the denominator into the numerator. 4 can't go into 3, so we add a 0. Add a decimal and then a 0 behind. Goes in 7 times, 28, subtract, gives us 2. Add a 0 because we don't want to have a remainder. 4 goes into 25 times. 5 times 4 is 20 exactly. So 3/4 would be equivalent to 0.75. And then we can see 0.75 and 0.75. Those are equal. So you'd circle the equal sign. Okay. Let's go ahead and I'm going to do one more of these just because they do have some mixed numbers and we haven't really talked about that just yet, at least not on this video. Talked about it in class, but not on this particular video. So again, I want decimals on both sides. This side already has a decimal, 1.9, so I can leave that. But this side has a mixed number, and students oftentimes say, well, what do I do with that big 1 next to the 3/5? Well, that big 1 is in the ones place, so I can just write it as 1 point. It's going to be 1 point something. And for example, down here, this is going to be 7 point something because the 7 is in the ones place. And then all you have to do is figure out the decimal part, which is the fraction part, by doing the same thing we've been doing in problem 1 and on the first part of problem 2, where we divide the denominator 5 into the numerator 3. 5 can't go into 3, so we add a decimal, bring it straight up, and add a 0 behind. 5 goes into 30. 6 times, 5 times 6 is 30 exactly. Subtract gives us 0. So 1 3/5 is going to be 1 6/10. There's a 6 right behind the decimal. So we do this step just to find out what goes behind the decimal. The big number, the whole number, always goes in the ones place, or if it's like a 12, it's going to be 12 point something. So that's how you handle the mixed numbers. So go ahead and do the same thing on 2B and 2D, where you already have decimals here and here, so you're just changing these fractions into decimals, just like we did on problem number 1 and like we did on 2A and 2C. So if you need to rewind the video because you've forgotten the steps, how to go about changing a fraction into a decimal, feel free to rewind. All right, and number 3, same thing here. You're comparing these 4 trees. 1 is already in decimal form, so we can leave that, and then we just need to change these 3. I'm going to change one of them for you. Let's go ahead and change the 15 2/3. So again, the 15 is the big number, so it's going to be 15 point something. Sorry about that. Where's my mouse? It's going to be 15 point something, so we need to just figure out the fraction part. So denominator into the numerator. 3 can't go into 2, so we add our decimal, add a 0. 3 goes into 20 6 times. 6 times 3 is 18. Subtract gives me 2. Add a 0, bring it down. 3 goes into 20 6 times. 6 times 3 is 18. Subtract gives me 2. You see the pattern already? So this is what we call a repeating decimal. So we can stop here, and we just add a line above that 6 to show the person that, in this case it would be me, looking at the decimal that it's gonna be 0.66666666. It's just gonna keep repeating. So we have 15 as our whole number, point, and then 6 repeating. So 15 2/3 is equal to 15 66/100ths, and then we could say that's repeating. Okay. And then once you figured out all these mixed numbers as fractions, then you just go through and answer the question. So the oak tree is the shortest. Well, we have 15, 15, 14, 15. We don't even have to worry about the decimal or fraction part for this question, because the oak is the only one that has 14. These are all 15, so yeah, the oak is definitely the shortest, so you would say that's true. And then once you've been able to compare the other numbers by changing them to decimals, you're going to answer the other 4 questions. All right, thanks again for watching. I'll see you on the next video.